Warren Ingram with Personal Finance this evening. We are going to pick up a little bit more on Section 12J of the Income Tax Act and how it is meant to help small businesses with Pavlo. So we've done that. We're going to do that with Pavlo in about 15 minutes' time. But Warren, are you feeling threatened? Are you feeling as if your career could be cut short in an instant, that you could be replaced by a machine?
Well, it's not really me speaking. It's a robot I brought in.
I thought you looked good. I thought finally, Warren's going to make sense.
I actually think that the future is arriving for us. And to answer your question, if I'm feeling threatened, I'm actually not. I'm feeling somewhat relieved. I think the future is bright for industries like mine, for people. The caveat there is it's for people who are already experienced, who already have a good base of planning knowledge built up that can somehow give themselves an edge on the advice that they give that's more complicated. But for new entrants, people that are coming into the industry, and I would put law into the same category, by the way. So for people who are coming in that need to build up experience, that are tasked in the early parts of their careers with answering relatively simple questions, I think it's already here, but it'll become commonplace where, chatbots, and we need to discuss what those are, but chatbots with proper trained algorithms will be able to answer the questions of investors and or legal clients already potentially much more accurately than a junior person can.
The chatbots are working very well in parts of Europe, for example, in the short-term insurance industry. The algorithms that determine risk in the insurance industry, that know the crime reports, that know the areas, that know the valuations of properties of what they were sold and bought at in the last round of sales and purchases, and they know what the neighbours were sold for, and they know what the crime rates are because they're tapped into good police systems, are very effective. I've watched demonstrations of these things in action, and it's quite terrifying.
It is, but in a way, to me, that's the part of a service industry that should be automated and I think should be offered to the clients of the business in an efficient and more importantly extremely cost effective manner, and so I think that's the part that gives me a lot of hope, because a lot of the time, if you look at complaints in the financial services industry and around advice given, it's quite basic. Quite basic mistakes are made, and the advice that's given, could easily be replicated in a reasonably kind of sophisticated formula, if you want, and given to people thousands of times over, because a lot of us have very similar questions. A lot of our early stage financial planning is, very basic. How much should I put in an RA, tax-free saving, etc., and how much can I afford? And that, I think can very easily be done by a well-trained, algorithm.
You told me 2, maybe 3 years ago, we were using Roboadvice.
Yes.
And you guys had engaged in this principle of Roboadvice.
Yeah, so I think the nice part for me is I've got a foot in all 7 camps. So for now, it's something that we've got, that we're exploring. The take up hasn't been nearly as big as I thought it would be in terms of the direct consumer. So what's interesting to me is, the futurists, 10 years ago were telling us that these millennials who, would be opening up bank accounts online and using their phones to basically run their lives, and they wouldn't really want to be speaking to people. Well, those futurists are horribly wrong. What we're finding is that a segment of the population across all age groups is extremely happy to deal with a robot of some description, or a computer, or a phone, or a tablet, or whatever it is. And it's a personality type, but it's certainly wrong to think that it's an age thing. Some people, when they make big decisions, irrespective of what that decision is about, they actually want to sit across the table from somebody, talk to them, and get plain answers in a way that they can understand. And they're not going to have that in-depth, detailed conversation with a computer. It just isn't actually panning out like that.
Here is, I would argue that it is a generational thing. I would argue that a lot of people are quite detached from financial advice, that they are far more comfortable on devices than advice. And perhaps the future is in the bot space. It is in the interaction with the simplistic approach to insuring products, insuring properties, insuring cars. And when it comes to making investments, well, you can ask Siri or whoever Siri is 5 or 10 years from now.
Yeah, I'm not going to say her name now because she'll start talking to me on my phone here. But yes, so
hey
so
Siri, can you give us great financial advice?
The highest rated one I found is Cape Trans Property.
Oh, no, nice advertising. Oh, you see, I think that proved the point. The highly rated one I found. So it's crowdsourced garbage. Okay, fine.
So that and that's where the complexity is going to come in, and that's what people I think need to be careful of. I guess ultimately with our slot here, we have to answer a so what question. What is this all about, and what should people take away from this? And I think that's the point here: is the technology is going to come. And being able to interact with your product provider or your financial planner is going to become much easier, and you'll be accustomed to being able to pick up your device and talk to it or have a plain language conversation with it, and it will be a robot, and it'll answer your questions at 3:00 in the morning if that's what you feel like. The trick here is still to understand the difference between quality advice and bad advice. So the fact that something has been trained, so where you've got machine learning and it's using fancy algorithms to give you advice or to manage your money, because scarily now there are fund managers, and they're in South Africa as well, that are using machine learning to actually manage money, manage large portfolios of unit trusts and the like. And my view there is, as always, with anyone who's using financial services, you need to understand behind that what's going on and what's the quality of the advice. Is it independent? What are the costs, etc.? Because I think, product providers, the good ones will do this efficiently, and they'll apply their minds to it and do it in a diligent and cost-effective way. But there'll be plenty of others that will just use this as an opportunity to fire all financial advisors and offer really basic and unfortunately shoddy advice. But now they only have to pay the computer for the electricity cost, and that will be where they're going to use this as a way just to make themselves more profitable, but not necessarily to the benefit of their clients.
All right. So, I mean, the future of advice, certainly for more generic advice. I buy a car for 100,000 Rand. It has got a market value. I have got a track record, or a driving track record. I've got a previous insurance contract. I decide to take out a new insurance contract. I speak to a robot and it says, "Hello, Bruce, you are a bad driver and therefore your premium is double. You have accepted the premium. Thank you." And we move on. That is the future of, say, car insurance, for example.
Agreed. I think an amazing thing is if you see that as a conversation on your phone, it's going
none the wiser.
It's going to be extremely natural. And that so-called person will have a name, possibly not a picture on that
No,
conversation.
they do. I mean, the demonstration I've seen, it was the CEO of Accenture in South Africa last year at a big insurance conference, did an as live demonstration. And he was talking to Megan, or whoever this robot was. There was a very lifelike looking, digitally created picture of this personage, this character that he was talking to, and interacting with. The character was asking him questions. He was responding, and it was in real time, as if you're having a really quick exchange on WhatsApp.
Yeah, and I've seen that now in the financial planning space. It's not live to investors just yet. So what's happening is some of the bigger financial planning companies and product providers are testing it with their staff. And if I look at the conversations, they're not spoken, but they're written, and they're written in a way that would be as good as anything that I could write, certainly. And for the really kind of just basic questions, how much should I put into my RA? What happens is that you get a really natural sounding answer. But what's really exciting from my point of view for investors is actually what happens now is you just get a contact directly to say, listen, it's coming to the middle of Feb, we've looked at what you've put in an RA over the last 11 and a half months of the tax year, and you can still invest X into your RA. Push a button here and it will happen.
Now, okay,
no one's been involved. It's just happening. And I think that for investors is happening now, and I think will be available publicly in months, certainly not years.
But it doesn't scare you. It's a support for now.
It is, and I think the trick there is when you've got two children, you've got to worry about school fees and potentially university planning and your own financial planning, and you've got a house and you've got cars to buy, etc., etc. At some point, and then if your partner thinks differently about money than you do, that's where the experienced people are going to step in. And I think for now, the experienced people have an advantage. I'm worried if I was 15 and thinking about by the time I'm 23 becoming a financial planner, that could be where you're just not going to get the experience.
I saw a great quote the other day. It's like, how am I going to stand up against the assault of the robots? And the line I saw was, be as unlike a robot as possible and you'll be absolutely fine. Just be human.
The human touch is what's going to always win this conversation.
Just no touching. Warren Ingram from Galileo Capital. Thank you.